If you want to run up to 3 different monitors off of your basic M1 chip, I'm going to show you how to do that. It's a little kind of workaround. And I think about 9 or 10 other stories from Apple. Let's get into the Apple news.
Living life every day.
All right, welcome back to the channel. So I think I have 11 different stories today for Apple News. I've done these before, so just sit back and relax, and I'm going to go through all of them. Some really good stories coming up. First one actually though is if you have like an M1 Mac, just an M1 Mac, the basic M1 chip, I think it can only have like one external monitor. There's actually a workaround now, and it's by Anker. So I'm going to go over here in a second here, and I'm going to share my screen. So let me go ahead and do that. All right, so take a look at my screen here. So Anker has a new hub now, and this is by Apple Insider. They have a story, but I went to actually Amazon. I'm going to have a link to this to Amazon if you want to pick one up. But there's a big caveat. So if you look at this, it's going to be Anker's new USB-C dock, and it's a hub basically. What it does though is it unlocks triple display for M1 MacBooks. So that's a great feature. So now you can get up to 3 different monitors with a couple caveats. If you take a look at this screen here. So I'll go over the ports in a second, but here's the compatibility chart. And this is one of the main caveats, is if you use this hub, and there's some software you have to install, it allows a triple display, but only 4K at 30 Hertz, and then your other 2 monitors can only be 2K, both at 60 Hertz. So if you're using 3 of them, there's that caveat. But take a look at this chart here. There's differences for dual display and single display on this hub. So that's all different depending on if you have 1 monitor, 2 or 3 external monitors hooked up. So if you only need 4K at 30, it's not a bad option. It says must read. You have to display this display link software must be enabled here, and how to install it. And then basically, let's just go down here. Here's some of the ports on it. You can see it has a huge amount of different ports on this. And then finally, the caveat, as I'm kind of talking about this, and you guys can browse the different ports, the caveat about this one is going to be the price. So let me scroll up to the top here. $249. I'll have a link to this in the description. So if it's really that important to you, you might even want to upgrade to the newer M1s that can go, more than 1 monitor. But if you have like an M1 MacBook Air or something and you need those 3 monitors, $249. It's expensive, but it's there. All right, the next story is a company that I talk about a lot. It's OWC. Check this out. So they're going to be coming out. You can pre-order this right now. I'll have a link to this, but you can only pre-order. It's the 250 gigabyte OWC Envoy Pro Mini. $79 for 250 gigs. But what's the huge thing about this? This one says it's up to about 1,000 megabytes per second read and write, so it's going to be very fast. It's a teeny little unit too. It's $79, which is not a bad price for this small. So I'll go ahead and show you kind of what it looks like here. It looks just kind of like a USB stick. It's got 2 different sides to it, USB-A and USB-C. You can use either or. And it's something that is just very tiny. And let me see if I can get some better pictures. Here's a good picture here. It says pocket sized. And if I go ahead and I play this, let me go ahead and play this really quickly. You can see some good pictures here about the size of it. It's about the size of a stick of gum or something like that. And generally speaking, they have different sizes. So this is the $79 for the one you can pre-order. That's 250. But they also have a 500 and a 1 terabyte model as well for obviously additional cost. So you can kind of take a look at this and see how small it is. That's really just the caveat. Or not the caveat, that's the actual selling point of this, and the speed up to 1,000. So check it out. It's by OWC. Nothing's really going to be this small where you can get this kind of performance on it. You can hang it on your neck. You can do whatever you want to do. Very small for $79. That's story number 2. All right, story number 3 is going to be, what are the top 10 arcade games on Apple Arcade? As you know, I have a subscription to that. I did a video a little while ago on that. And take a look at my screen. I'm just going to go through them really quickly. So if you want to pick up Apple Arcade, I think it's like $5 a month. What are the top games right now that they have? Right now, it's going to be What the Golf. I think that's number 1. Then we have Sneaky Sasquatch, which is kind of a funny game. Definitely check that one out. 3rd on the list is Wonderbox, the Adventure Maker. And 4th on the list is going to be Oregon Trail. Remember that when you were growing up? It's another kind of remake of that. And then number 5 is, what is this? Fantasian, and that looks like another game. It says it's an JRPG gameplay. So it looks like you can spend about 60 hours leveling up on that game. Number 6 is Alto's Odyssey Remastered. So it's going to be a game that has been remastered. The original, if you check that out if you can. And then Angry Birds Reloaded is the next one. Zen Pinball Party is that one. And I think Lego Star Wars Castaways is another one. If you love Lego, they got a game for you as well. And then finally, Gear Club Straydale. So that's going to be a racing game. So those are the 10 top games you can get right now from Apple Arcade. So if you like any of those, $5 a month, you can cancel anytime. All right, the next story is going to be the Apple Studio display. Well, if the Apple Studio wasn't as expensive as you needed it to be, between $1,600 and $1,900 or $2,000, they got a display, a Pro model coming out. It's going to be the same 27-inch. Looks like it's going to come with mini LEDs though, and some better, I think it's going to be HDR ready and things like that. But they're rumoring it to be a lot more money, so like $2,600 or something. Anyways, it looks like it's being delayed until at least October for some reason, probably because of what's going on with China and all the different parts and stuff. So if you're looking to pick up that super expensive Pro model of that monitor that's going to be super expensive, you got to wait another few months. All right, the next story is going to be Apple 14, basically the iPhone. They're thinking it's going to have the Apple's always-on display, kind of like the Apple Watch. So if you kind of read, this is an article from, again, Apple Insider. They kind of explain that if down in here it says that they've actually figured out how to get the screen to be a 1 hertz refresh rate on it. That's what they need, 1 hertz, so it doesn't use any power. And then you can have an always-on display, so it's always going to show your time or your kind of messages and stuff. And never turn off, but never really use the battery either. So they're thinking that's going to be a possibility on the iPhone 14. Is it or not? Let's see. That's the rumor that's got it in the books right now. Obviously, with upgraded cameras and stuff, it's going to be bigger changes than the last iteration of the iPhone. But you never know until we see it because things change. But let's hope that comes out in the next iPhone. All right, the next story is going to be Apple could let you switch, active devices in the future just by picking them up. So they're working on a patent where if you put it on a watch or if you just pick up a computer, it's going to know it's you. It's going to know that's the active computer and basically switch over to that account. Not that it's that big of a difference of what it can do now with, just using your fingerprints and stuff, but I guess they're going to have some smart way of doing this, just like, so that it knows exactly what the active watch is. It's going to somehow identify you by, you wearing the watch or you touching the computer. They're working on building that into the systems. Not a big story, but just something that they're working on. All right, the next story is kind of a big one for a lot of people out there. So if you work just in Apple retail, there's a lot of Apple retail stores out there. Apple just increased the hourly workers' wage to at least $22 an hour. So that's pretty impressive. It says it's going to be at least $22 an hour and more in a lot of cases. That's where it's going to start. But if it's in different markets like probably California or New York, it's going to be more. They're saying that it increased 45% since 2018. So in 4 years, 45% increase in the salaries. Inflation's going crazy right now in the world, so you need that basically to survive. But still, $22 an hour for Apple retail minimum, Apple just announced. I think they're trying to stop unionization also. I think that's one of the reasons why they're raising that kind of starting cost. But anyways, it's good for everyone if you work in Apple retail. All right, next story is going to be the digital ID feature, and Apple Wallet has expanded to Maryland, so another small state here. Basically, take a look at my screen. You can do kind of a your driver's license in here. Now, right now, they're saying it's good for just like the TSA check-in. If you're going to be traveling and stuff, you can put your passport in here or your ID. But it looks like you still need to carry your thing until they work out all the details of your licenses and stuff in case you get a speeding ticket or something. So it looks like that's the government of Maryland. It says Apple says the first state to adopt the features also include Colorado, Hawaii, Mississippi, Ohio, and the territory of Puerto Rico. And then it will come to Georgia, Connecticut, Iowa, Kentucky, Oklahoma, and Utah soon. Digital ID is basically available in the US. It requires an iPhone 8 or newer. So if you're looking for digital ID, so you don't have to carry your ID anymore in the future, it's coming to a state near you. All right, so the next story is going to be another Apple AirTags stalking story. So I keep giving these stories. I mean, this will probably be the last one. This is from Oklahoma State University's police warn students and faculty that they found a number of incidents of people tracking people in their cars, in their bags. Little freaky, a little kind of scary out there. So keep in mind that anything that's good can be used for bad. And it looks like Apple AirTags has been a number of times for following people back home after they've been shopping or something. They go into an expensive store. So just keep an eye out. I know it's hard to tell if you have something on like your car or something, but there's a lot of different stories. And now it hit Oklahoma State University. You can check out the article on Apple Insider. All right, second to last story is just going to be a simple one, but Apple talks to suppliers to increase manufacturing efforts outside of China. So as you know, due to COVID-19 in Shanghai and stuff, there's a lot of problems, and this is what's affecting, I think, the new Apple Display Pro, also a lot of the MacBooks. Now, I'll get in a second, the Apple iPhone's not affected that much for some reason, but all the Macs are. There's long wait times on them, so looks like Apple's trying to move outside Vietnam and other areas that are out there. Just different areas that they can get to. Singapore maybe, so that they don't have to be relying on China, especially if China does go in and kind of invades Taiwan or something. We don't know what's going to happen. So long story short, I think Apple's trying to kind of move their eggs all and put it in one basket there. That's kind of what the moral of the story is. So hopefully that'll kind of ease up in the next year and it'll be a lot easier to get an Apple computer. But right now, you know, it's problems with a lot of different Apple systems, so you got to hang in there. And like I just said, the final story is going to be Apple. It plans still to ship 220 million iPhones in 2020. Think about that, 220 million. Fewer than predicted, but still about as much as last year. They were predicting maybe 230, 240, but it's going to probably be able to do 220 million Apple iPhones this year. So not too bad with all the shortages and stuff. So like I said, that hasn't been affected as much. You're able to usually pick up an iPhone right now. At least most people have been. The MacBooks and kind of the Mac Studios and stuff are a different story. But anyways, it looks like, obviously that's why they're shifting things around to kind of get around this so that they don't have to even go to 220. Maybe they can do 240, 250 next year. So long story short, there's been a lot of problems with shipping, a lot of problems with inflation, a lot of problems with, China and COVID and things like that. So they're really trying to get around that, but it looks like the iPhones have not been nearly affected as kind of the Mac. So anyways, that's the end of the story, or that's the end of the show today. And I hope you guys like these little stories. I usually try to do 10, 11 different stories. I think I did 11 today. Let me know in the comments if you guys like any of this stuff. If not, maybe I'll stop doing it. I'm going to have a couple cool reviews coming up of some SSDs and stuff coming up in the near future here. So wait for those. Subscribe to the channel if you can, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.